Welcome to the podcast. Most people don't, but you do. We're excited to have a very special guest, Mike Schugt. He's going to be going through some fun career changes here, but currently he is the president at Teneo Hospitality Group. I spoke to Mike the other day. We were introduced by a common friend. Shout out to Ryan Spear. This is what I learned about Mike. Mike grew up outside of Pittsburgh at a rival high school. He graduated a year earlier than I did from Penn State University in the hospitality program. We have a lot of things in common. Mike, I'm just glad that you're going to spend some time, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
You're doing great things now, Mike, but you're going to be doing even greater things. I wanted to get you on the show to be able to help share your story. We're fortunate it's a top 2% podcast in the world. And we'd like to start typically, Mike, about, yes, growing up, we know it was outside of Pittsburgh, but what did you think you wanted to do as a kid growing up?
I wanted to be a hockey player or a sportscaster. And I realized the hockey thing when I was in high school wasn't going to happen. And as I started as a dishwasher at the age of 15 at the Racquet Club of Pittsburgh. And so I got a little bit of the taste of what hospitality was like. And then in the 80s, I saw the show Hotel that was on, and I just got enamored. And because of that show Hotel, I'm like, I'm going to the hotel business. And that was
gosh. You would be probably amazed at how many people, especially internationally, that I've talked to, that got exposed to the hotel business because of that show. Exactly. I know exactly also where you were working right by the Monroeville Mall at that right. Oh, goodness. So what about the hotel world, I guess intrigued you?
I think it was the hustle and the bustle and the uniqueness of the hospitality industry and all of the different things that happened that really no 2 days looked to be the same at that time. And it still holds true today. But just the variety, the level of connection with other people, and then being a hotelier, like serving the guests. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. And did you grow up thinking that you wanted to serve others? Because that can be a difficult decision. It can be, I don't want to say a demeaning position, but it can be difficult. And Mike, the only reason why I'm bringing it up, not too far from the racket court of Monroeville was Edgewood Country Club, right in Churchill, right down the road, right up to 376. And I started working there. Edgewood Country Club, I was a poolside grill person for 2 or 3 years, and then I became a mixed grill bartender. And I will never forget, this was probably 1 week into the job. I'm behind the bar. This is a time when people could still smoke inside. And I will never forget a member smoking a cigarette, asking for an ashtray. And because I did not have one readily available, she took the lit ashtray and threw it at my face.
Wow. Okay.
I had to excuse myself I'm 21 years old or 19 years, whatever it was, early. And I had to gather myself, but that was not an easy thing to go through. It had to make me think, do I really want to serve people that are going to treat me this way?
Yeah.
Did you have anything like that happen to you?
I had a lot of things happen to me because I started off in the front desk as a front desk manager. I started with Marriott Hotels. I knew February of my senior year, I was going to work for Marriott Hotels. And so I worked at the Stanford Marriott, 507 rooms. And I think where most of my interesting things happened, the things that happened with guests were frequent, upset guests and people yelling at, but it was a lot of other things that happened there. And I was about 22 years old, graduated from Penn State, and I had to lead a group of 30 people. And that was my first leadership experience. So there was a whole lot of things going on with that. There was a situation where there's a robbery going on in the gift shop, and I had to tackle the person. And it was such kind of a unique area that there was actually police at the Stanford Marriott all the time. So I helped them out. And then 3 days later, someone died in a hotel room, and I had to, so there was a lot of things going on at the age of 22.
Yeah. But you stuck with it. And I guess the
Yeah.
question is it's not an easy industry. I have many stories to share, but this is about you today. There's a lot of strange things happen. There's a lot of demeaning things happen. There's a lot of things that would make you question, do I really want to put myself in harm's way? Do I really want to be going into a room where there's sadly a deceased person? Why did you stick with it? Because you certainly did. And oh my gosh, Mike, if you look at your career, right, you accelerated leading global sales team, vice president, regional vice president of sales, and then now president of Teneo Hospitality. What, why do you think you continue to stay with it? Where's the passion come from?
Well, first of all, you said it at the beginning of the show, Bart, we're Pittsburghers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're a tough lot. It's going to take a few things for us to get off our path. And I always found things like that as opportunities. I'll find them, okay, not good, but super learning experience. I'm German. There's this famous quote, "Was das nicht unbedingt macht mich starker." That which does not kill me makes me stronger. I always took like all these things as tremendous challenges, and I found the opportunity like I typically do. And that's really what kept me going.
You can tell you're smiling when you're talking about these unique situations. You're smiling because you are a tough son of a gun. You're a tough Pittsburgher. Who were some of the major influencers growing up? And did they teach you to be tough and resilient like that? What can you share?
Yeah, thanks. Both of my parents are from Germany. And I think that I have two brothers, I have a twin brother and an older brother. I think two things. Number one, we were always kind of taught of a work ethic. And I saw all my friends' families, a lot of blue collar workers, really working hard. I think the real key though is I have a twin brother and we're not identical, but we look a lot alike. And if you're battling someone from the crib, okay, for in everything you do, the competitiveness that you have, okay, and battling in a fun way, we're obviously very close. But that competition and that drive is really what becomes second nature because you just don't know any better. And so that's probably the single greatest thing.
Yeah. Tell us your brother's name again.
Steve.
Okay. And we Steve equally as competitive based on growing up in that same crib with you, Mike.
Yeah, easily. And at some things more, it depends what sport we're in, but that's just the way it is.
Is he in hospitality?
No, he's in the chemical distribution business. He still lives outside of Pittsburgh. And so he's doing great.
But competitive from a business sense, pushing and driving?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. In the world. When did you decide that you wanted to get into sales? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember the exact day, time, because at the front desk, I was there for about 2.5 years and I was ready for the next move. Right. And this gentleman walks into the hotel and it turns out his name was Jesus Christ. Okay. Because he literally comes up to me and checks into the front desk and says, "You look like you could be in sales." And I said, "Really?" I said, "I'd love to get into sales if that means growth." And he says, where did you go to school? I said, "I went to Penn State." He goes, "I went to Penn State." He said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Mike Schugt." He goes, I said, "What's your name?" "My name's Paul Cirola, and I'm the vice president of sales and marketing for Marriott Hotels in the Northeast." And 3 weeks later, this man was kind enough to promote me to an opportunity as an executive meeting manager handling these small meetings at the Westchester Marriott, which was about 30 minutes away from Stanford. I could stay in the area. So it was like, that's why I said it was Jesus Christ that walked in the door.
And did it feel like the right fit when you started as an EMM?
Couldn't have been more perfect. It checked all the boxes of hard work, being attentive, a hotelier, as a front desk person, you learn the whole hotel from the front desk. So I knew all the departments, maybe not the food and beverage so much. And then someone's given me a goal. Okay, you gave me a goal, game on. And then the rest was history. It just took off to the races from there. And one of the best jobs I still have had. And that was literally 34 years ago.
And that was one of your best jobs.
Yep.
Yeah. Why? Tell us why.
Because number one, I was learning something completely new. I was so motivated. I learned so much. It was just, and the most important thing is that I learned I could control my own destiny. I didn't, yes, I have to rely on other people in departments and all this, but look, the harder I worked, the more diligent I was, the more I cared about the client. It was all on me. And I was like, that's all I want. Just give me a chance to show what I can do. And that's what made it work so well. And that's why I loved it so much.
Right. And I'm curious, Mike, right out of the gate, did you feel that you were authentic as a salesperson?
Yeah, totally. Only because I was probably doing all the wrong things. I probably thought I was doing, I probably thought I was right, but I don't know what I was just going by what I thought was the right thing to do. And when you're in the EMM environment, unfortunately, you don't have that chance to really grow the client relationships because it's more of a transactional type of job. And at the same time, you're connecting with people. But listen, you can be there at 7:30 in the morning before the group comes in and greet the client, make sure the room's set up very well. They're not necessarily expecting all that. You can stop by at lunch. You can stop by at the end of the day. You can do all the things that would make it better. And that just came very naturally to me because the service part that I had before. So I was more of like that service person versus salesperson at the beginning.
And that's what makes a difference. And we so often, I have different sales leaders. So on the podcast, it's everything from founders to executive directors to entrepreneurs to salespeople. And often we're talking about some of the best qualities. And we're finding this. It comes from being authentic and real and natural. And I'll share with you quickly. My first job out of Penn State, where I was working for Hyatt Regency, Pittsburgh, Chatham Square, I think it's called, right by Duquesne University, across from the Civic Arena. You as a Pittsburgher would know exactly where it's located. I think it's now a Marion Chatham Center. But when I was put into sales, I thought I had to be something that I wasn't. I'll never forget one of my first appointments, just solo appointments, was a breakfast appointment with one of the meeting and event managers with US Steel, right? USX. And I was nervous, and it was 11 o'clock and we're having breakfast. And this gentleman, who was probably 50 years older than me at the time, orders a Bloody Mary with his breakfast. He wanted a Bloody Mary. Great. I'm treating you, whatever you want. In my mind, I thought alcohol. I need to have alcohol because I need to be in sales. I need to be a chameleon. I need to be just like him. And I did not like tomato juice, and I didn't like vodka or whatever else. I don't like Bloody Mary. So I ordered a beer. So there I am, like 11 in the morning, having scrambled eggs, toast, and a beer because I thought that's what I needed to be. And it taught me, and I shared this story, I didn't need to do that. I just needed to be myself. I just needed to be, I'm not a drinker. I don't like Bloody Marys. I'm just going to stick with orange juice. It's that point of, I thought I needed to be something in sales. So I like hearing your example of you came from the service lens. You came from the front office world. You wanted to do the right thing. You're competitive. So you rolled up your sleeves like a good Penn State Pittsburgher would do, and you went to make the customer happy. That's it.
Yeah. But listen, Bart, it's perfectly acceptable to say that you wanted an Iron City beer at 11 a.m. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay.
All right, fine. Thanks for the qualification. Mike, let our listeners. So far, we've learned a lot about you. The grit, I'm going to say grit, determination, influence of your parents, the competitiveness of having a twin brother, all of these things, resources, someone seeing in you something that maybe you didn't see in yourself, naturally putting into a place in which you can control your own destiny. Do you remember going from a sales manager then to a sales leader? What was that experience like?
It was a little terrifying. And what happened was I was an assistant director of sales at a 1,264 room hotel in Atlanta, the Hyatt Regency Atlanta. And we were just building back in the day that new conference center. And I was hired to help fill that and maybe manage a couple of the folks on the small meetings people. But then after a couple of years, I was looking for the next opportunity, and Hilton came knocking on my door. And as you grow up in the business, normally you go from an assistant director of sales in a hotel, then you maybe go to a director of sales and marketing at a smaller hotel, 300 or 400 rooms, and you work your way up to the big box. But what happened to me at a very young age was the GM at the Hilton Atlanta, his name was Dick Groves. I met him and he wanted to hire me as the director of sales and marketing at a 1,200 room hotel. And it's kind of funny. I think part of the reason he hired me, this is a funny story, is I had about, we were always carrying those briefcases around like 20 or 25 pounds. We weigh like 10 pounds on their own without anything in it. And so I go to the Hilton Atlanta and I'm supposed to meet him on the 28th floor in a suite. And true story, all the elevator banks are down and they didn't work. So I walked up 28 flights of steps with my briefcase and I beat him to the suite. I was on time and I was sweating like I've never sweat before. I had my suit on. So I'm in the bathroom, just like faces red. And he basically comes into the suite. He's like, how the hell did you get up here? And I said, I walked up 28. He goes, it's going to be pretty hard not to hire you. Okay. So he hired me and I learned so much because I was in charge of a department of about 30 salespeople and all the different types of things around the sales environment. And in a new hotel company, the Hilton, in a new hotel I've never been in a 1,264 rooms. We do 220,000 group rooms a year. It's a 75, 80% group house. And I was about, 30 years old, 31 years old. I was like, so extremely stressful, but I learned everything in that role. Everything that I could learn, I think even from today, goes back to those 2 or 3 years in that role.
Wow. And how were you able to learn so much?
It was either 100% sink or 100% swim. When you're sitting there and most of the people that are working with you are older and they know you're new, they know you're from the competition, they know that, there's not a lot about this property and you're a first-time leader. The first time I was a director of sales, failure wasn't an option. In 1998, I'm not proud of this, but I worked 344 days that year. Yeah. And that's a true story. I just got the choice.
Yeah. And that was my guess, Mike, because it's evident by you doing whatever it took. You walk up 28 flights of steps. And what I love about the podcast and these conversations is that we usually get into a sentence or a theme that is going to be the title for this. And right now it is 28 flights of stairs, doing whatever it takes, rolling up your sleeves, and you figured it out. And when you said that you learned so much, like I'm looking at your office behind and you have tons of things written all over your whiteboard wall behind you. I know that you were working hard. You had to work hard through those years to be able to learn what you did, to be able to grow. Failure, as you said, was not an option. Were you able to have any balance during that time, or did that come after 3 years, or have you not found that balance yet, which is okay?
That year was 1998. And I would say by the year 2000, I found a better balance. Okay. And with the birth of my first daughter in 2001, I definitely found a much better balance. But I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have. But again, I think even through the years beyond 2001, when I was vice president of sales and marketing for Hilton in the Southeast and Latin America, I found a better balance, but I consistently struggled with finding a better balance. And probably not until the last 5 or 6 years where I think I've truly figured it out. But it took me a very long time to figure that out. And a little bit of it is the nature of the beast, kind of in my role, traveling a lot and so forth. I would do things like I have hotels in Latin America. So I would take a red-eye to Buenos Aires and be in Buenos Aires for a day. The next morning, wake up and I'd go to Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'd stay there for a day. Then I'd take another red-eye back because I tried to make sure I was there for my daughters no matter what. I never took a week and went anywhere. I always made sure I was trying to be a great dad and great at what I did. It wasn't easy, but that's how it was.
And even as you say, going back to 1998 as an example, our son is 26 and he's living at home. He works for a film marketing company. And when he works at home, he is working nonstop.
Yeah.
He loves it, but it is nonstop. Like I don't even want to interrupt him for lunch as an example, because he is working nonstop. And I was just thinking about that when I started my career, when you started your career, kind of what we had to do. Though that was a ton, 26, 27, 28. Before kids, our first kid came along at 32, I think, for me. But we had to bust our butts to be able to learn to get to a level, not to ever coast, but to be able to gather as much as we can in a very short period of time. Then to be able to identify, okay, I can have a balance by taking the red eye and spending time with my family. I can find a balance by doing this. And any suggestions for people that are perhaps starting off in any career right now, how to find a balance or not worry about balance? What's your opinion?
I think there's so many positions that are remote. There's so many positions with the connectivity today. You could be on call 24/7 as a sales professional almost. So I think when you have your phone handy, it's so easy at night to go on and do these things. And I think really figuring out early that mental health and stress management is part of life. And there's no reason to get too far away from that, to keep the balance, to stay centered. We could go on all day about what I do with the techniques I use and so forth. But yeah, I think it is very important to find the balance. I think there's a way, particularly with technologies, really working smart, really doing the right things. One of the things I talk about all the time is self-leadership. It's really, you don't have to be the boss to be a leader. You just need to lead yourself. Okay.
Wow.
And as a leader that leads themselves, knowing when to turn it on, turn it off, and demonstrating value within the work that you're doing and setting the example, letting others see the example, showing your boss and other people that who you are. I think all those things are combined to be successful when you're getting out of the gate.
Love that. Love the self-leadership. You're absolutely right. There's a timer that I initially bought for my son, but I've been using it. And it's just a little cube and it has 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And you just kind of turn around, you flip it. And if the 5 is facing up, then it starts to count down for 5 minutes. And what I'm finding with self-leadership is that there are distractions when you work at home or when you're traveling. And there's things that I don't like to do. So I will give myself 5 minutes to work on my expense report that I have to send into a client. Quick 5 minutes. Or I'm writing a newsletter for tomorrow. I'm going to give myself 15 minutes. And that's all I'm going to work on. I'm not going to look at anything else. I'm not going to check my phone. I'm not going to look outside. 15 minutes. So I love that you say that, Mike. It's self-leadership. And then you have 2 kids that are relatively new in their careers. What advice do you give them in addition to self-leadership? What else are you telling them with regard to balance and mental health?
I have one daughter who's a sophomore at Penn State, and I have another one that is working in Switzerland, starting out her career. And I think that they're very well versed already on balance and things like that. Where I focus my time with them is, first of all, I think it's important they make a lot of mistakes on their own. And so I want to be careful, but there is a core group of things that I do that they see and that they're doing. For example, with my eldest daughter, I'm really into meditation and manifestation and deep breathing. Those are deep breathing in particular is extremely important to me, something I do all the time. And my daughter is really into meditation, into yoga, and into breathing in a different way. And I'm getting my younger daughter kind of acclimated to that as well. So there's some amazing tools to balance things out. And today, in today's universe, it's not just work. There's so many things that create stress that figuring out how to deal with the best is so vital.
Yeah. Any favorite places that you could recommend or breathing masters or instructors? Anything that you can share with our listeners?
Well, first of all, it was Father's Day of 2018 when I started transcendental meditation. So any place that your listeners are at, your viewers, there's a quote TM center. And transcendental meditation is really easy to do, and it really relaxes the mind and creates brain space. When you get your brain space back, you're able to think more clearly. You're able to react to things. You don't get angry as much. You're just generally happier because your brain is relaxed. What I can say is, for me personally, the Wim Hof breathing method, he's better known as the Iceman. So if you were to Google the Iceman, Wim Hof, there is an app. It's a breathing app. And this breathing app is transformational. I do it every day, no matter what, 20 minutes in the morning, deep breathing. It takes out your CO2, replaces it with O2, makes you feel really good. And then I have a cold plunge here in my house, and it's a Mac Daddy cold plunge. I'm just gonna say it's because I didn't want to. I was filling up ice buckets all the time. I'm like, I gotta get something that's a little more convenient. So I'm in the cold plunge a few days a week, and between all these things, it's extremely helpful.
But Mike, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I don't have an itch for 20 minutes. I don't have 5 minutes in the morning to meditate. I don't have 10 minutes to stretch. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I can relate. We're all busy, and there's nothing bad in that. There is nothing negative about that. Okay. But what it's about, okay, is a commitment to yourself. If you're not ready to commit to yourself, then that's okay. That's okay. I'm not here to convince you that this is what you should do. It has to come from within.
Yes.
See, it has to. But I will tell you that when you start to see very noticeable results, there is nothing that you would rather do. Period.
Love it. And I was being facetious. And it wasn't me saying I don't have 20 minutes, because I believe in what you are doing. It is so important. And it gets back to, as you said, self-leadership. You need to make a commitment to yourself. And this theme is coming out about self-leadership now, Mike, also. Self-leadership, making a commitment to yourself, showing up when you're ready. And if you're ready, then you're going to be able to actually do it. And when you begin to see the benefits, you're going to continue to do it. It's what we talk about. And that's why I wanted you to be a guest on the show. Most people don't focus on fitness. Most people don't take the stairs. They take the escalator. Most people don't do things the hard way. Most people don't make a commitment to themselves. But when you do, there are tremendous benefits. Mike, I want to ask you 2 more sales questions before getting into what you're going to be doing with inclusivity, because I think that's extremely special. Congratulations and thank you. From a sales person's perspective, what do you believe are some of the greatest attributes, traits, or characteristics that you have seen in great salespeople? What do they bring to the table? The greatest.
Number 1, authentic. Number 2, a strong drive. Competitiveness. I think problem solving is underrated sometimes.
Yeah.
And hospitality. And I think when you put those together with the right doses, I think that there's a tremendous thing there. I think if I would have had to do it over again, what I've learned with some of my nonprofit things that I'm doing is, if you can do all that with being an extremely kind person and helping others, then I think that the universe rewards those that have the level of gratitude and kindness toward others. And I think when you put it all together, that's a winning formula.
And it just goes around and goes around. And as you shared those 3 or 4 components, the authenticity, the competitiveness, the drive, and hospitality doesn't need to be just for hospitality. It is service. It is, and I talk about noticing, anticipating, and over-delivering. That's what I learned from my Ritz-Carlton days. That's what I learned from my Hyatt days. And that's what I'm teaching people now. you can over deliver in any role. Yes, a sales role. Yes, a service role. But any role, you can certainly have that hospitality lens to be able to over deliver. And the funny thing is, you share like with kindness. I have been speaking at kindness conferences often, and I've been talking about it's called More Than Nice, the Power of Kindness. The reaction to it has been earth shattering because so many people want to be reminded of how can they be more kind at work, at home, with family, with friends. How can they be reminded to do? And it's simple. It's just a reminder what we all can do. I'll give you a quick example for our listeners. So I go through an acronym and I have it on my business cards. K stands for being kind over right. Okay. There's opportunities when, and I think you can see it, right? In fact, of my business card, kind over being right is when something happens to us. Maybe someone cuts us off. Maybe someone bumps into us. Maybe someone accidentally cuts the line. We don't need to be right. We can let them pass. We can let them go on this side. Maybe they have a medical emergency. I'd rather be kind than being right. Then we go to I, which stands for include others. And I literally, after I speak at a conference and I give this, people are walking around holding this like a checklist. And I am using it like a checklist because I stands for include others. My wife and I often do work at this coffee shop in Northern Virginia. And there was a kid that was sitting across from us. And we just engaged in conversation because we knew a lot of people at the coffee shop. And we then introduced ourselves to this kid, Matt. Shout out to Matt Santiago. And just the smartest kid, the nicest kid, just graduated school, moved back home, works from home, doesn't really know anybody. All of his friends moved out of the area. He is not going into an office because there isn't one. He's not involved with community sports. So we started introducing him to all of the people that we know at this Goose Cup coffee shop in Northern Virginia on Leesburg. And it was game changing for him. And I think game changing because it made us feel good. And all it was, Mike, was I, right? Include others. How about from a sales leadership lens, or even let's make it even broader, leadership. You talked about what are some of the characteristics for a great salesperson. What about for the best leaders that you've seen? And we've already talked about this self-awareness, commitment to self, lead self. What else have you seen?
Nobody cares what you until they know you care. And to me, that's what it's all about. It's really about when you have a team. First question I ask is, what's your middle name? And a middle name tells me something or nothing, or they don't have one. Okay, now I know something I didn't know. But I spent a lot of time getting to know people personally first and then professionally. And that doesn't mean I go to the bar with them or I got to be their best buddy. But I want to build that relationship, and not because it's on a checklist or I have to, but it's the authentic way that I like to lead. And when you start to understand what people's problems are, and everyone's got a whole bunch of them, including me and then some, it creates the bond. And that loyalty to one another is what helps create the team environment. And they know you have their back. And like most of the time, they're going to run through a wall for you. You're going to run through a wall for them. And then while you're doing that, it's the Ken Blanchard 1 minute manager. It's always coaching. You don't have to wait to sit down to coach. You just have to coach, continue to coach. I think that authenticity factor is so vital. I do think that demonstrating competitiveness, leadership, kindness, and here's the thing. If you're having a bad day and everybody has it, shut up. Don't say anything. Don't talk to people too much because you could be in a bad mood or something happened to your mom, whatever. Well, then don't make that the day that you're talking to a lot of people. Just put that day away because you want to bring every day an opportunity where you're creating that motivating environment. I think what happens today so many times is we're all on Zoom calls where there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of our calendars are full. And I think that it's easy for a leader to demand things and I need this, I want this, I got to have this. That's the easiest thing. I see it all the time. But if you're able to do that in a way that kind of flips the script a little bit and put a little humor into things and not take things too seriously, okay? And not take, and let people know that, hey, look, I could really use this because I'm going to, if I don't get it, but whatever it is that lets people know that we're in the hotel business. We're not split me atom. Okay. We're all going to live if it doesn't get done. But at the same time, we want to lead is at the right tempo. And so I think too, is so many leaders think they're important. Okay. And to me, that's the 180 degrees of what I want to be perceived as. Cause I'm a devil hockey player from Pittsburgh. Okay. That's all anyone will listen to that to me. And so I'm not, the self-importance is what when managers grow up and they don't know better, that's what they think they're supposed to be, autocratic and self-important. And I think it's the opposite of that is what makes teams work.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. I remember I worked for an organization, happened to go on an international trip with the president of this hotel company at the time, and we sat down for dinner, and this is exactly what he said to the server. You mean you don't know who I am?
Yeah.
We were in Tokyo, for goodness sakes, and he was serious. You mean you don't know who I am? That's not the type of leader that I would want to be. It's not about your way or the highway. It's truly about the team that you are leading. And it becomes, and it should become, about everyone else. That's so refreshing to hear, Mike. And I know a lot of leaders don't do it. Another friend of mine, general manager and president of the Bonita Bay Club, his name is Fred Fung. He told me that the time in his career where things started to change for him is when he heard a statement and he started believing in it. And it's something along the lines of, it is amazing what you can get done when you stop worrying about getting credit for yourself.
Yeah.
And that goes with being a selfless leader, which is exactly what you are. So, Mike, in the last couple of minutes remaining, thank you for sharing things about you, things about great salespeople, things about great leaders in general. Can you tell us a little bit about what Teneo Hospitality is currently doing? And then I want to see some of the most exciting news that I believe that you have to share toward the end. So tell us a little bit about Teneo Hospitality.
Sure. Teneo Hospitality we're a group of almost 50 employees, and we have 20 sales professionals around the country. And our job is to be an extension of the teams of the hotels that we represent. So, for example, Marriott has a global sales organization. Hyatt has one, Hilton, IHG. And so if you're an independent hotel or a small brand and you're trying to reach out to those same clients as your competition is, you don't have that national global reach. That's where we come in. So we get those hotels in front. And when that lead is going to all those companies, they're coming to us as well, and we're representing them. And our job is to book group business into those properties. We work with over 350 properties around the world, primarily independent, 4 and 5 diamond. And we're pretty much in every major city in the United States. And we also do lots of marketing, social media, all these different things to promote our properties that are our members.
So giving an advantage to the independent boutique properties that do not have a flag per se, helping them from a global sales representation. Can you give us a few examples of the properties that are right first with you?
Sure. So in Las Vegas, we work with the Venetian, and then we work with all the Caesars properties, Station Casinos, which is Red Rock, Green Valley, the Sahara, those hotels. So if you're in Miami, that's a really good proxy for us. We work with the Margarita in Hollywood. You work with the Noble Eden Rock, the Fontainebleau Miami, the One Hotel South Beach, the SLS. You work with the Kimpton Surfcomber. We work with the Kimpton Epic. We work with the Biltmore. We work with the Trump Durrell. So that's an example. City. And in every city, we have a pretty big footprint because the demand from our clients and so forth.
Amazing. And what do you think is different about Teneo Hospitality? When I'm presenting organizations, I'm always talking about brand differentiators. What is one thing that you think makes them different and unique?
Relationships. Period. End of story. Our team has been selling on average for 24 years in the industry.
On average.
Yes. And so some have been in the 30s and even in the 40s. And
Okay.
one of the people that founded a predecessor company is Marcia Gerard, who started in 1976. She's one of the first women in this industry, in the sales and marketing side and the hospitality business. And so it is 100% about the relationships that we have and how we leverage those relationships on behalf of our hotels. Because if we didn't have those relationships, then the clients wouldn't give us the business to provide for the hotels that we work with.
Agreed. And if we go back to think about what were the characteristics, what were the traits of the best salespeople, authenticity, tenacity, ability of having strong relationships, service, follow through, hospitality, and that is all that your team represents. So congratulations. Now, I know you have some very exciting news about what you're going to be doing next. And I'm so proud to know you, first of all. Like,
Thanks.
we're really best friends. So whether you like it or not, we are. But what we wore with inclusivity, I think is absolutely brilliant. And it just shows the quality and caliber of Mike Schugt and what you represent. Can you tell us about NIN-inclusivity? Tell us what you're going to be wearing next.
Absolutely. So starting January 1, I'm actually stepping down as president of Tomeo Hospitality. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've been doing this for 35 years. And it's time for me to change things up a little bit. And what I've done is about a year and a half ago, I started a nonprofit organization called Inclusivity, INN-Inclusivity. And it's like you said, it's your I, include. And that's what I do, but in a little bit of a different way. So what we do is we find jobs and opportunities for special needs adults. And I live in Orlando. We started this, like I said, a year and a half ago. And the way it works is, first of all, I go up to this vocational school and I will just go in there and teach. So I'll teach about hospitality. I'll teach about service. I went in there one day and talked about leadership, about teamwork. And these are things that this group of people aren't really exposed to. And then what we do is we take 5 or 6, what they call specialists, they're adults, and we'll take them to a hotel to do an immersion. So they'll do a half day behind the scenes. So recently we're at a resort and we went into the pastry kitchen where they got to make pastries with the pastry chef. One hotel, they got to turn on the wave pool. We made pizzas with the chef at another property. And so by immersing them in this, then we can see, okay, is there an opportunity that there's interest from them to be hired or working? And would the hotel like to do that? And so far we've had some matches. As a matter of fact, I was at their Christmas party all morning today. They invited me. And so one of the gentlemen that we hired last March at the Wyndham Orlando Bonnet Creek, he's in housekeeping and his name is Jacob. And I said, Jacob, how's it going? He said, I love it. And before he worked there, he's in his 30s, he was looking for work. He was looking for a purpose in life. So many times after the age of 18, people forget about this audience of people. And it's taking the people that are unseen to unstoppable. And now Jacob, a big part of his responsibility is vacuuming the floors at the Wyndham Orlando Bonnet Creek. He does a world-class job of that, okay? His family's happy. He's happy. He's got a responsibility. And so that's one example. And so what I'm doing is taking that concept on the road in 2025 and doing this in different cities.
Wow. Wow. And I want to, is that the tagline? If not, it should be unseen to unstoppable.
It's actually, I got new t-shirts coming and that is our tagline. It's going to be on the front and the back. Today, it's where doors open. Tomorrow, it's going to be unseen to unstoppable, because when I started this, I didn't really know what it was going to be like. I just started. And then now I see when someone gets an opportunity that no one's ever given them before, what that means to them. And they truly are unstoppable. And I don't know of anything better. I really don't.
Yeah. And you are also lighting up as you describe it. And I'm equally as excited for you. Can you see the little banner going across?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I got it right. Okay, thanks. And I was telling my wife this morning that I was going to be talking to you. and I explained it similarly to what you said, that after school age, after 18, what are you going to do if you're a parent when your child has, is it safe to say special needs? What's
Yeah,
the
neurodiversity, special
okay.
needs, autism, severe autism, Down syndrome, different types of brain injury,
Yeah.
different needs.
Okay. So what do you do with your child who is 19 and done with school and doesn't want to go to college or whatever the case is, or they do go to college and they're not being taught certain skills to be able to acclimate into a job that is going to that's going to help them fulfill their passion? What do you do? And I think, Mike, inclusivity and the people that you're partnering with, that is a wonderful example. You're giving people education, you're teaching them, you're sharing best practices and life examples, you're connecting them with opportunities. And then what you also shared is, do they like it? Do the specialists like it? And do the hotels need and want to receive a specialist? Is there a fit? And as you just shared, world class. That gentleman is doing a world class job of whatever the task is. And boy, don't we need more people doing world class jobs, whatever they're doing. We just need more world class service professionals. And I love that you are helping people figure this out.
Yeah.
Mike, for our listeners, and this is going out to 600,000 plus, a lot of different folks, some hospitality, some Fortune 100 companies. It's a nice, some event planners. It's a nice grouping of people. I want to know, what can our listeners do to help you? One, with Canal Hospitality. We'll make sure we give out the details. And then two, how can we help you with inclusivity?
If you have my contact information and you're interested as an independent hotel that you may need global sales support, then we're very happy to take a look at that. And if there are meeting professionals out there that are looking for a different type of solution, I could go on all day about the virtues of independent hotels, but I won't. That's one way. As far as how the website is, www.inclusivity.org. And I would just love it if everyone took a look at it. For today, this is something I do by myself. Okay. And so tomorrow it is going to be something where it's going to be bigger. It's going to have more opportunities. I'm going to be hiring people. And there could be an opportunity where we are going to be looking for some donations to fund what we're doing. But for today, I'm just very interested in letting people know what we're doing to make them aware. And that's it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. And I know you are based in Orlando, but I would imagine the goal is to be able to take it across country, if not worldwide at a certain point, to be able to help people, to help these specialists find jobs in which they are helpful, they're feeling fulfilled, they're fulfilling a passion. Is that the game plan?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. You nailed it.
Okay. So I want to make sure everyone has the spelling, and it'll be in the show notes, of course, that Mike's last name, Schugt, is spelled Schugt, very prominent on LinkedIn, president of Teneo, Teneo Hospitality, and then also the founder of Inclusivity, and it's inclusivity.org. Great website. You are doing some incredible things, Mike. I want to make sure that we can support you as much as possible. Excited for you to take a challenge, to take a step, something that is unknown. But we know you're going to walk up 28 flights of steps. You're going to roll up your sleeves. You're going to be competitive in the crib. You are going to pour as much as you can to make nonprofit just explode. And we and all of my listeners are here to help you, Mike.
Dude, that was so nice of you to say thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that very much.
Meant to be, meant to be. Pittsburgher, Penn Stater alumni. We were meant to be connected. Thank you again. Shout out to Ryan Spear with Spear Travel Group. Check out his website as well. Mike, truly last question.
Sure.
Most people know what is the name of the company, the podcast. fill in the blanks. Most people don't blank.
Most people don't. Most people don't love enough.
And we will all be so much better if we love more. Thinking about the sales relationship, the last couple of years when I was with Ritz-Carlton, our clients started saying that to us. And we started saying it back. And it meant something. I think we don't need to be afraid of using that word with friends, with friends, with human beings. We're allowed to say that. So I think, Mike, I love what you are doing. Okay. I love what you stand for. I'm going to use that L word, and we will certainly be in touch. But thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Keep on filling out that whiteboard. And truly, if you need me to drop off something to your mom in Pittsburgh, I think we're leaving on Sunday or Monday.
All right, so I got something for you, okay?
Yes. Yeah, please.
Love you, man.
Mike Schugt. All right, we will be connected soon.